What up, people, and welcome to week number 11. So close to the end. Just be patient, and before you know it, it will be the end of semester. Yay, 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 yay. Anyways, I hear that there's a huge possibility, if Corona does not intervene and ruin everything, that we may get to see each other. I look forward to seeing you guys and to actually seeing your faces, to seeing if you're alive. Because for some reason, this semester's conversation classes seem to not want to have conversations with me. Please talk to me, because I need to know that you're there. Don't just play the video in the background and not do anything, because that's not participation. Come on. But you know what? I have had to remind myself that it must be really hard during these online lessons, and I really do try to see, okay, let me make it more fun, let me be more energetic. But even when I'm listening to a lecture online, I press the skip button or I put it on super fast. So I have to remember, it's not about me, it's about the situation right now. So I really do appreciate all of you who take the time to actually watch and learn from the videos. I really, really, really appreciate it. And those of you who interact with me, I'm so delighted, because at least I know that one person, got something from these lessons. This week, what are we talking about? We're going to be talking about some key words that you need to be aware of. So this class is all about multicultural English. This is why I focus a lot on learning slang words. This is why I did the interview with my friends from Nigeria, and I'm also planning to do other interviews as well. Because you need to know that English is not just England, it's not just America, it's so wide and it affects so many different people. So many different people use English as a way to communicate, and you need to know about them. However, when we interact with people from different cultures, some things can start to come up, some negative things. So we're going to take a look at what are those negative things that can come when we are trying to be more global minded, when we are trying to reach out, not just to people who look like us and are from the same country as us, but when we're trying to, communicate with those from a different culture. So I'm going to be taking a look at 5 keywords, and all under the umbrella of stereotypes. So today's video is hugely based on stereotypes and cultures. So I hope you enjoy it. Please don't skip, stay with me. Yay! And as always, if you like my videos, please subscribe. Oh, no, let me do it again. If you like my videos, please like it, subscribe, and share it with your friends. I really appreciate it. So the first word that I've got up here is stereotypes, okay? Stereotypes. And you may know this word already. In fact, most of you probably know what this word is. However, it is really good to go back and define the words that you already know and get a more deeper sense into them. So stereotype is a set idea that people have about what someone or something is. Or is like, especially an idea that is wrong. So it's an idea that we have, and I think everybody has stereotypes. If you think, oh, I don't have stereotypes, I'm a global-minded person, like I love everybody. Hold your brakes, Brenda. You probably have some stereotypes of some sort. So here are some stereotypes that I've heard, and maybe you've heard as well. All Asians are good at maths. Asian can mean Chinese, Korean, Japanese, Indian, somebody from Asia. So generally, funnily enough, those people are all really good at maths. But all Asians are good at math? I don't know, math or math? I think I say maths. All Black people can dance and sing. This has affected me a lot. Especially living in Asia, people always look at me as though I can dance and I can sing. Now, I'm not saying that I can't dance, and I'm not saying that I can't sing, okay? But what I'm saying is that it's a lot of pressure sometimes. When I go to like a dance class, I do love to dance. When I go to a dance class, I I think this stereotype is in my head. I don't know if that's what the people are thinking, but immediately I think, oh, they're gonna think that I'm a really good dancer, and I actually am not. Like, I can freestyle really great, but I don't do well with choreography. I'm actually terrible. So it's a lot of pressure. And then some people have said that to me as well. Oh, can you not dance and sing? Like, it's always an assumption that people have. Americans are sweaty and smelly. I've heard of this before. There's just this kind of, I think people are just, I don't think it's just Americans, but I think generally people are like, foreigners are sweatier and smellier. So again, those stereotypes. And these are all, I think it's a lot of pressure. Okay, being good at math, maybe it's not a bad thing, but it puts you in a box, right? It gives an expectation. So there you go, stereotypes. And one of the great things to do is you always have to be aware of the stereotypes that you have of other people. And you need to check if those stereotypes accurately reflect those people, and they're true and they're good. So not all stereotypes are a bad thing. Some of them are a good thing. Some stereotypes are actually even true. They actually fall into the category of being true about those people. But they're never absolute truths. They're never true for everybody. They can be true for a majority, but not everybody. And yet, what happens is we take those stereotypes as true for everybody. So therefore, when you meet an Asian person, you just immediately think, oh, I bet you they'd be good at maths. And when you meet a black person, you're like, hey, you want to show me some moves? Like, there's the concept in Korea for like the cool black hyung, black brother. And some people do find that offensive because it just puts black people in this box. You're supposed to be tall. You're supposed to be good at sports. You're supposed to be like this cool. It doesn't work. What if you're not like that? You know, what if you don't fit that category? What does it do to you? What does it make you? And why do you have to have a separate name for like a black brother? Why can you just not call them just a brother, just a hyung? You know, why does it have to be like, I can't remember the word off the top of my head, but those are some things that we need to think about. Number 2 is the word discount. Okay, or discount. If you discount an idea, fact, or theory, you consider that it is not true, not important, not relevant. I think in our day and age, it is very, very important to be able to discount some ideas, you know, some ideas that you hear or you see on the media. It's very good that you are able to say, no, that's not true of those people. No, we need to think wider. So here's some sentences with discount in it. I discount that all Asians are naturally good at math, but I accept that they work hard, which is true. So we can have the stereotype, but then we can discount the idea and make it into a better phrase or better statements. So not all Asians are good at maths or are naturally good at maths, but in Asia, you are expected to work hard. So maybe that's why Asian people tend to be better at maths than maybe other people. Like, education is a huge thing in Asia. So when you're discounting something, you are, you're not accepting it. You kind of think it's not relevant. And it is important to discount some statements, especially some stereotypes, if you want to communicate with other cultures. Otherwise, it's really, really hard. You have to learn to try and see the person for who they are without all the stereotypes that you have of them. I definitely think there was this stereotype before coming to Asia. I had stereotypes about how Asian people would, you know, consider me as a black person, how they would treat me based on what I heard or saw in the media or saw in TV shows. Like, for example, I think it's recently that you kind of see black people in a positive light. So you see some kind of famous, you know, black people rising up, being on TV shows. But beforehand, you didn't really see black people in a good light, especially in K-dramas. There's never no black prince or like a black millionaire or something. The black people are always like some thug in America. And I'm always like, where do you get these people from? Like, where do you get them from? We're not all thugs. Like, we're not all... So there's that kind of stereotype that I saw strongly in like the TV shows and in whenever I watch a drama. So it makes you think, like, is that what people think of me? Like, do they think I'm some dangerous person or something like that? So yes, discount the idea. Learn to be able to discount the ideas. Learn to be able to differentiate or see the difference between what is true and what is not true, and what is just a blatant lie, and what is just, maybe it's a stereotype, but it's just not true of all the people. Learn to be able to analyze your thinking. It will really help you as you communicate with people from different cultures. The next word, number 3, is stigma. Stigma. If something has a stigma attached to it, people think it is something to be ashamed of. People think it is something to be ashamed of. So I have these 2 sentences here. There's a stigma attached to girls who are white, blonde, and blue-eyed in Korea. People can assume they are Russian prostitutes. And many times whenever I say this statement, some people are like, what? I've never heard of that. But I have. It happens. It happens to some friends of mine too, that people just stigmatize them. Oh, you have that look. That means you must be a lady of the night. But like, that's not good. Another stigma is maybe people who wear like hijab, or who wear clothing associated to Islam, to the Muslim religion. There's a stigma. Oh, maybe are they terrorists? I've had that too as well. I had a funny situation at the airport where somebody who was, dressed in a long robe, and he had a suitcase and it was, wrapped tightly with cling film, and he kept on going back and forth and back and forth, and he wouldn't sit down. And in my head, all I could think about is, what is he doing? This is dangerous. Why does he keep going there? Why does he keep going there? And it's because I have that stigma. I have that stigma attached to people who look like that, when in fact it's not true. Most terrorists are normal people. They look like normal people and they blend in. They don't want to stand out. But I have that stigma. Another sentence is, there's a stigma attached to unmarried pregnant women. Not so much in England. It used to be before, but I definitely think in Korea, if you're unmarried, you're pregnant, and you're young, I couldn't even imagine what it must be like for somebody like that in Korea, with the Korean society as it is. It must be so difficult. But there's that stigma, right? It's people will look at you in a weird way and judge you, kind of. So the number 3 is stigma. Number 4 is, I can't count, culture. So the way of life of a particular people, especially as shown in their ordinary behavior and habits, their attitudes towards each other, their moral and religious beliefs. Now, I know you know the word culture, but I thought it would be really important to actually learn, what does the word culture mean? So here, it's the way that people behave, it's their habits, it's their attitudes towards each other, it's their moral and religious beliefs. Now, I like this illustration. When you think about culture, think of an iceberg. On the top, an iceberg is really tiny, it's really small. So this is like, you just see a tiny little small thing. But beneath the iceberg, there is like a huge other part to it, right? And so what you see of somebody's culture, what you see portrayed on the media is usually just the top. It's really just the top. You see the end result. But beneath this iceberg, underneath, are years upon years upon years of built traditions, beliefs, ways of thinking. There's a lot more going on underneath the surface of things. So when you're getting to know somebody's culture, or when you meet somebody for the first time, and you already have some ideas about them, about who they are and what they're like and you only scratch the surface. You only really scratch the surface. You don't know the underneath. Same thing with me. When I first came to Korea, my knowledge of Korea was what I saw on TV, in the dramas, or what I saw on K-pop. But that's like a tiny scratch of what Korea is. I had no idea about Korean history. And so many times I would, I would just be confused whenever Korean people were so strongly against Japan. I was like, Japan's a great place. What do you mean? But I didn't know about the history. I didn't know about the culture. And so I'm learning, just like you, I'm learning to really be careful, to take a step back and to really try and get to know the people instead of like assuming I know them and putting them in a box. And I think it's really good if you have the habit of learning about people's cultures, not from what you see on the media, but just in general. If you dig deep and learn about people's cultures, I think you will learn a lot, and I think you will have more meaningful relationships. So one culture that has been exported all over the world is definitely American culture. American popular culture is something that is found everywhere in the world. If you look at K-pop, there's so many influences from American culture that, is intertwined into K-pop and different things like that. Korean culture, you can say Korean culture is just exploding, especially Korean pop culture, drama culture. It's literally just exploding all over the world. One thing I would like you to know, being from England, it is very, 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 very rare for a non-English song to make it on the English chart. Very rare. It's like once in a blue moon, once in a while thing. And so for BTS, for like a band like BTS, especially a band like BTS to be so big and to play at a stadium like Wembley. Wembley is huge. I mean, these are where like big international artists, like big artists book Wembley and sell out Wembley. And so for a non-English band that sings in another language, well, they also sing in English, to actually make it to that stage is a huge thing. So it's a huge, huge thing. So I think it's wonderful to see Korean culture just really exploding and people getting to know more about Korea. Which brings me on to the next thing, culture appropriation. The act of taking or using things from a culture that is not your own, especially without showing that you understand or respect this culture. All right, so what I wanted to do is I saw this video of, and I wanted to do a bit of a reaction. It's a video of Korean trainees learning about cultural appropriation, discrimination when it comes to hairstyles. So we're gonna watch it together, or you're gonna watch me watching it, and then you can watch it too. So let's see what they say.
네, 오늘 수업을 시작해볼까요? 저는 1일 선생님을 맡은 6월 지아입니다. 오늘
By the way, I think it's really, really great that there is an opportunity for the trainees to learn more about cultural appropriation, because in the media it is a big issue for some people, not everybody, but for some people it is a big issue. People find it hurtful that K-pop musicians or like K-popers can I say K-popers? K-popers kind of, they make money off of other people's cultures without showing appreciation. So this is what we're talking about. When we're talking about cultural appropriation, we're talking about using somebody else's culture to benefit from, but you don't show any respect to those people, or you don't even know their culture. So that's what we're looking at.
사실 이 흑인들의 문화가 요즘 같은 시대에 무슨 상관이냐, 이게 스타일뿐이라고 말하는 사람들이 많대요. 근데 이 머리가 지금 현대에서 힙합 스타일, 레게 머리, 에스틱 머리 등으로 잘 알려져 있는 머리들인데.
Let me just stop there. So she mentioned people call it hip-hop style, reggae hair, or ethnic hair. Now, if you know the person's culture, you will know the different names. For example, cornrow, which is what she mentioned earlier, which is what the was it the Gucci or some sort of catwalk? It was a catwalk show, and they had this kind of cornrow inspired hairstyle that they did. That style, I do it sometimes. I can't do it as well on my hair, but I do it sometimes. The other hairstyles that most black people wear would be an afro. You've seen me in an afro, or maybe if you've watched, I don't know if I've done it for this class or another class, but it's just my hair in its natural self in a round circular shape. Reggae hair is not called reggae hair, it's called dreadlocks. Sometimes we use extensions, so we use fake hair and we make it into braids. So there's different types of hairstyles, and now I think they're gonna go into the explanation of those hairstyles.
는 전통적으로 머리가 굉장히 중요한 문화적 요소였어요. 이 머리 모양이 그 사람의 지위, 부족, 가족 등을 나타내는 표식이었거든요. 그렇기 때문에 그들이 우리를 식민지화하면서 가장 먼저 했던 게 그 머리를 잘라내는 그런 것이어서 개인적, 집단적 정체성과 문화를 없애버린 거예요. 그 머리를 잘라내면서. 근데 저희가 그거를 우와 멋있다 이러고 있는 거예요, 여러분.
So the explanation that she gives about slavery and colonization, I didn't even know that, because again, I think that's not exactly my experience.
그래서 이 일주일 당시에 일주일에 7일을 일하던 노예들은 머리를 가꿀 시간적 여유도 머리에 맞는 제품도 없었고 비위생적인 곳에서 지내야하기 때문에 머리를 자르고 두건을 썼대요. 그러니까 그 문화를 박탈당한 거죠. 근데 저희는 그 문화를 박탈당했는데 그거를 멋있다고 그 멋으로 하고 있습니다. 돼요, 안 돼요? 안 돼요.
I don't think there's anything wrong with a Korean person calling a black person's hair cool, because it can be cool. But the problem comes is when Korean people don't know anything about the black hair. They don't even know, like, for example, they just call it reggae mori. That's what we feel like calling it, but without knowing where it actually comes from. Did you know that it's a religious thing, the people who have the dreadlocks? Did you know the roots that it comes from? Do you know why? So all of those things are really, really important. Now, I don't completely agree with everything that they're saying. I don't think it's a bad thing. If a Korean person tries on black hair, it's absolutely cool. For me, personally, it's what they do to generally how they treat black people, how they view black people. That's where I have the problem. So for me, when it comes to cultural appropriation, I think we all do it. We all see something that we really love and we want to imitate it and we want to follow it. There's nothing wrong with that. However, we need to ask ourselves, how do we treat those people? How do we view those people? Is it right to take from their culture and to, almost take a style or take a thing, but yet not appreciate that culture, or call those people bad names or have a negative view of them? Or we enjoy their food but we hate the people? Like, come on. I wanted to end the video with some stereotypes that I heard before I came to Korea and I heard after, because I always think they're really interesting. So I'm just gonna read them out, and then if there's one funny one or one interesting one, I'll talk about it. So, all Koreans are short. I definitely heard this a lot before I came. Everybody's like, everyone in Asia is really, really short. Which is not true, because I was surprised that there's actually more taller people than what I thought in my mind. Although, in Korea, I do generally feel like I'm not super short, which is not the case when I go back to Europe. Everyone eats dogs. That is just it's a terrible stereotype, and people need to stop saying that. Everyone is a workaholic and studies hard. Now, I must say that I think people just go to work a lot. Everyone has done plastic surgery. I was surprised at how comfortable people are with talking about the surgery that they've done. I guess in England, plastic surgery, all of those kinds of things are seen as something that maybe it's more common, but it's certainly not something that you talk about openly. You don't go around telling everybody, oh, I got double eyelid surgery, or I chiseled down my jaw, or I got, a facelift. Like, you don't go and expose it unless you're a certain type of person, you're a certain type of character. But here, everybody's just like, yeah, if you go to Myeongdong, people are like walking around with their, you know, plastic surgery faces with the bandages. So that was really surprising. Korea is just North Korea, which means that everyone is hungry and poor. I definitely think that, you hear a lot about North Korea because of the news. So I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, people didn't know that there was a South Korea. They just think it's just one Korea. It might sound so silly, but I think some people still believe that there was just one Korea and it's pretty much North Korea. I think now that South Korea is getting more popular, maybe people are more aware of it. But I definitely think that could have been true. They are all Buddhist. That's definitely true. I definitely thought this before I came to Korea. I thought everybody's probably Buddhist or atheist, like, because there's this kind of notion, Asia, Buddhism, Zen, meditation, but that's really kind of China, but I confused those two. And so I was really surprised walking around like Korea, and I'm just like cross. I was like, they got churches here? I really believe that there's no churches. They're against Christianity. Totally wrong. Koreans eat black people. That was the most ridiculous statement I heard, and it was probably from a very stupid person. Koreans hate black people. That was a stereotype that I was really afraid of. Coming here, again, like I said, because there's not much representation of black people in TV, in dramas, and if there is, they're thugs or some just minor character that's not usually a good character. So I was unsure of what Korean treatment towards black people was like. So for me, the way I overcame that fear, because it really did stop me from coming here. It really did make me think twice about coming to Korea. It was watching YouTubers that were already living here, black YouTubers that were already living in Korea, that were like, it's totally fine. I mean, people will stare at you because you look different and they'll be curious about you, but they're not going to be throwing stones at you or calling you names. I have had negative statements from kids. I remember walking and a little kid was like, "Oma, 못생기," and 못생기 means ugly. That was a really hurtful statement because I was like, nobody should be called ugly. Even if you think I'm ugly, kid, that's just rude to point to somebody and call them ugly. Or like kids being afraid of me because of my skin color, all of those kinds of things. In the moment, it is hurtful. It's not a nice feeling, but afterwards, I'm like, okay, you have to have a bigger mind. Maybe the kid hasn't been exposed to a lot of people that don't look like their parents. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they just see Korean people and they've never in real life seen somebody with a different skin color, so it's a bit scary. But it is hurtful. It's really hurtful to, you know, you're not even trying to harm a baby, but then they're so scared of you. It's like, what did I do wrong? Like, seriously. Older Koreans are racist towards other Asians. Sadly, I think this is partly true. I think there is some sort of, I wouldn't say racism, but slight discrimination, looking down on other people from other Asian countries. I think I heard some Vietnamese students definitely felt like that here. They felt like they're lesser, you know, there's like, it's not equal. There's that feeling there. All ajumas have short curly hair. I know that's not true, but it's very close. Ajumas definitely have their own fashion style, their own trend, and I love watching them just all dress up the same. Koreans are super shallow, super into their looks and super into just the looks are, you know, and super vain. I don't think it's that. I think it's just normal in Korea to care about your looks, to look good. I think it's expected of you in society. Whereas maybe in England, we would, like I said in a previous video, we wouldn't have a big mirror. that we would look at in public, because that is not seen as a good sign. But I think that's just a difference in culture, a difference in ideas. What else? I think that's it. I think that is it. So I hope that you enjoyed today's very chatty video about stereotypes and everything. I've said everything to say this. Stereotypes are real. There's discrimination that happens. There are stigmas going around all the town. There is cultural appropriation. But living in Korea, I've seen also that a lot of people just don't know about other cultures. And so they may do things that are offensive, but they may not even know. But it's really high time that people started to get to know, because Korea is getting bigger. More people are learning about your culture. More people are learning about your music, your dramas, your food. More people want to come here. So it's really important that, you know, people start to, you know, learn more about other cultures, which is why we have a class like this. So I'm gonna try and get an interview with a friend from England. I did promise you to get a friend from Korea, but that friend lives in a different city, so it's, you know, it's kind of hard. And I want to try and see if I can get some other interviews before the end of semester, because I think it's really interesting to learn about the person from the person's mouth. So learn about the person from the horse's mouth, right? From the real source, not just from me. So I'm going to try my best. I can't promise anything, but I'll try my best to see if I can get some good interviews up for you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, please press the like button, subscribe, and share it with your friends. And I shall see you next week. Thank you very much. Bye bye.